Alright guys, welcome to my new YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share please. The latest immigration crackdown may be fake Social Security numbers. That's what the story is about. The Social Security Administration may be the latest front in the Trump administration crackdown on the illegal immigration. Trump's going after the Social Security numbers. Okay? Now, as we all know, most illegal aliens are not working under the table. They are, in fact, receiving paychecks, which means they have somebody's Social Security number or a fake one. Okay? They have, some of them have bank accounts. I mean, this is how they're doing what they're doing here. But Trump is going after that. The agency is reviving the controversial practice of sending no-match letters to businesses across the country, notifying them when an employee's Social Security number doesn't match up with official records. Here's the letter that Trump is sending off to the employees. This is California, by the way. That may sound innocuous, but these no-match letters are expected to set off alarm bells. That's what happened when they arrived in the mail back in the mid-2000s. So Trump didn't think this up. This is not new. He's already done this before. This has already been done before, I should say. And so this is not new. Back then as now, the federal government is trying to crack down on unauthorized workers. Pace understands the need to keep accurate records, but she thinks these letters were also intended to threaten employers who might have undocumented workers on the payroll. That's probably almost everybody in California. They were very old school formal government letters that scared you, she said. There are a lot of reasons someone's Social Security number might not match. Name changes or clerical errors, for example. But it could also mean that workers using fake Social Security number. And when an employer gets one of these letters, it has to ask the worker to fix the problem. It's the federal government who's now questioning something. And now we're being the delivery boy, so to speak, and giving the message, says Gary Gitlin, an in-house lawyer for Pro Ranch Market, a chain of grocery stores in Arizona. We had to let a lot of people go when this company got no-match letters in the past. That's because he was employing illegal aliens. Because either they were not able to recognize the no-match, reconcile the no-match, or simply refuse to deal with it. Okay? So this is what's happening. This is the first step. Now I want to go back to this because it's very important. This was mailed out in March 29th. Okay? We're going on a month. March 29th. These are the letters they got. I don't need to read it to you, but here's the letters. You can look up the article. I'll leave a link for the article, as a matter of fact. Labor unions and immigrant advocates took the issue to court in the mid-2000s. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce complained that the government was trying to turn business into immigration cops. Eventually, the Obama administration stopped sending these letters in 2012. You would know that. Now they're back, and so is the controversy. This is part and parcel of the anti-immigrant agenda by the Trump administration, said Marilena Hicapi, the executive director of National Immigration for Law Center. This fits squarely with the overall strategy of installing fear and chaos amongst the immigrant workers. The Social Security Administration is trying to improve the accuracy of its record. If we cannot match the name and Social Security on the W-2 to our records, we cannot credit earnings to a worker's record, said spokesman Mark Hinkle in a written statement. When earnings are missing, the worker may not qualify for Social Security. He or she is due, or benefit amount may be incorrect. You see, these numbers, you have to understand that Social Security is like a bank account. Okay? You get credited for the money that you put in. And so if somebody's using your Social Security number, they're disrupting your bank account. What if you're making the money of a lawyer and the guy that's got your Social Security number is a janitor? Okay? So you have to understand that this is disrupting people's lives. I know myself have found out that other people are using my Social Security number. Okay, so this has affected people's lives. If an employee is using a stolen Social Security number, we think it's important for relevant people to know, said Dan Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which advocates for lower levels of immigration. Stein said he has no sympathy for undocumented immigrants who are using fake Social Security numbers to work or for employers who have been looking the other way. I agree with him. Illegal immigration is ultimately everybody's problem, Stein said. And one of the reasons why we've seen it blown out of control in the last 30-some years because employers have been willing to do this, have not been willing to do their fair share in ensuring American jobs go to American workers. But employers say it's not their job to enforce immigration laws. It's a very fine line for employers to walk and not get in trouble on either side of the line, said Pace, said the lawyer. That's catch-22 you sometimes see. Okay? So I'll leave a link to the letter. I'll leave a link to the article. And here's the second part to this. Valley leaders gathered to oppose Social Security numbers letter targeting undocumented workers. This is dated April 16th. That means they're receiving the letters. This is Fresno, California, by the way. The Fresno beat. Okay? So the employers have already started receiving these letters, asking them to check on their employees' Social Security numbers. Several Central San Joaquin Valley leaders gathered Tuesday to proclaim their opposition to the reinstatement of the United States Social Security Administration's no-match letters program, which the elected officials say targets the area's many undocumented workers and will have a devastating effect on the local agricultural economy. Fresno Congressman Jim Costa and T.J. Cox, both Democrats, joined with State Senator Ana Caballero and a handful of Valley City Council members, representatives for both California senators, the Fresno County Farm Bureau, the Nisei Farm League, and WBC Super Lightweight World Champion Jose Ramirez. That's what it said. For a news conference in downtown Fresno. I never heard of Ramirez. The cohort reported that tens of thousands of undocumented workers and dozens of local businessmen, primarily in the agricultural sector, have already been affected by the letters. The typical letter informs an employee of how many of his workers provided Social Security numbers in their tax form that do not match the administration records. Now listen at this, man. The letters began being mailed across the country at the end of March. I just told you that. According to the Nisei Farm League, at least 37 local businesses employ about 37,000 workers, have received letters, and more than 22,000, about 61% of those workers, were flagged as no-match employees. Let me read that again. At least 37 local businesses that employ about 37,000 workers have received letters, and more than 22,000, about 61% of those workers were flagged as no-match employees. Over half of these people's workforce are illegal aliens. Employers have 60 days to correct the issues, which Costa, Caballero, and the others said put tremendous stress on farmers ahead of major harvest. Many employers may choose to fire the undocumented workers to minimize their own risk. If Trump takes this national, which he probably will, I know he's going after California first, this could have a devastating impact on illegal immigration. Because if these people can't work, they can't live here. We all know that America is a nation of immigrants past, immigrants present, and with every generation of immigrants, Costa said, families that are reflected here in this room, your family, my family, we add value to the United States with the hard work and determination that immigrants have always brought to this country. Yeah, but you're using somebody else's illegal Social Security number, man. Costa said the letters may mark Social Security's movement into immigration enforcement, which is not its mandate. It may also complicate Congress' attempt to immigration reform. He added that many undocumented workers, in addition to contributing to the economy in other ways, supplemented Social Security by paying into it without any real hope of being awarded benefits. That's T.J. Cox. Cabral noted that 80% of the nation's lettuce is grown within her Senate district. I'm going to read that again. Cabral noted that 80% of the nation's lettuce is grown within her Senate district. 99% of the nation's almonds, raisins, and more than a dozen other crops come from California. This was the first year in her several as an assemblywoman and senator. She said farmers had told her that they were leaving the produce fields to rot due to labor shortages. She said the letters only increased this problem while also having a major effect on small rural communities whose survival depends on ag. There she is, Gabrielle. Okay? All right. That is. All right, I'm gonna show you this last newscast from, I guess it's Fresno also, where they're saying how they got the letters, and here it is.
The Social Security match letters are supposedly going to every employer in the nation. Now, the issue here is that most everyone knows undocumented workers work in the Valley's farm fields, construction sites, and restaurants, and efforts to give them a way to get legal don't get through Congress. But the fear is the Trump administration's effort to force the issue could either prompt political action or result in economic turmoil.
Valley employers are scrambling after receiving letters from the Social Security Administration warning that many of their employees' Social Security numbers don't match the records. Most of those are undocumented workers using phony Social Security numbers. The fear is the next step will be ICE raids on businesses and deportations of workers. It's something Congressman Jim Costa of Fresno says we need to acknowledge and address.
The bottom line is millions of undocumented workers do a critical job in this country, in building homes, in harvesting our food, in caring for children and senior citizens, and working in the tourism industry.
Congressman Costa, along with Congressman T.J. Cox, both Democrats, say this revival of a program that was discontinued nearly a decade ago is part of the president's efforts to crack down on immigration.
The Trump administration's decision to reinstate the senseless practice of these no-match letters is just another tactic to further marginalize and scare our immigrant communities and their employers.
The letters put employers on notice, and some companies in the Valley have already noticed that more than half of their workers appear to have invalid Social Security numbers. If those workers leave, jobs will go unfilled, crops will rot in the fields. State Senator Ana Caballero says Democrats can't be the only ones speaking out against what could turn into an economic catastrophe.
The president needs to hear from members of his own party and business people whose very existence depend on having a workforce.
These letters from Social Security only require employers to advise their employees of the discrepancy, but it's assumed many workers will flee, fearing deportation. And Democratic members of the Valley's congressional delegation say the president's apparent plan to make fighting immigration part of his re-election campaign will make the tough job of immigration reform even more difficult.